Good evening. This is a regular meeting of the Select Board for Tuesday, October 5th, 2021. Let's get right into announcements and updates. Select Board members, please keep each topic to under 90 seconds. John, did you want to go first?
I'll go whenever. I just have a quick bit of good news to share with people in Brookline. And Devin might have a picture to go with this or might not. I'll just go ahead and announce the news anyway. And that is that through the efforts of a number of people, Brookline is going to host some refugees from Afghanistan. And the Tab had a very good story on that just a few days ago. Abby Patkin was the reporter. The Courtyard by Marriott in Coolidge Corner is going to be temporary housing for the first two Afghan refugees.
Very quiet. Did anybody speak yet, or is my...
Whoops.
Oh, Miriam, can you not hear us?
I can now. I thought, wow, it's really quiet.
Should I continue?
Sorry, John.
That's okay.
Keep going.
Afghan refugee families being settled at the Courtyard Marriott in Coolidge Corner. Brookline Center for Community Mental Health was very much involved in this. And so was a nonprofit organization, a faith-based organization known as Cataluma. So thank you to both those organizations. Welcome to Brookline, to the families that are being resettled. And perhaps this will be the first of more than just the first two. And that's my news.
Great. Any other new updates? Miriam?
Sorry about that. That was, I had my volume all the way down. I would just like to let everyone know that there's going to be a second flu clinic on November 14th, run by the Brookline Health Department at Brookline High School. So put that on your to-do list to get your flu shot.
Great. Any other announcements? Seeing none, let's move into public comment.
Great. Hey, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for public comment. This is an opportunity for us to hear your perspective on the issues in Brookline that matter to you. We do have a few rules I'd like to share before we begin. Each person speaking tonight is limited to 3 minutes. You don't need to use the entire time, but you may if you like. Please refrain from personal attacks and from addressing personnel issues during your comments. Members of the public sometimes raise questions during public comment. We may be able to provide a quick answer to a question, but are more likely to work with staff to get a more thorough answer and respond over email. We'll let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining, and when your time is up, please conclude your remarks at that time. If you have more to say, you are welcome to send an email to Select Board members expressing your thoughts in greater detail. Devin, who's first on our list?
The first person signed up for general public comment is Rochelle Rothschild, but I don't see her in the attendee list at this time.
Okay. And I will say we are going to have public hearings tonight. So if you are want to comment related to any of the warrant articles we're reviewing tonight, please do hold your comments for that point, that period in time. Is there anyone else, Devin?
At this time, there are 35 attendees and no one has used the Q&A or hand raise feature to indicate they'd like to make a comment.
Okay. Heather.
Okay. So let's get through our miscellaneous agenda. There are meeting minutes to approve from September 21st, 2021 and September 28th, 2021. Any comments or edits before I move approval of those? Seeing none, I will move them together. I move approval of both sets of minutes. All those in favor? Bernard?
Aye.
Raul?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Miriam?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I will quickly go through the rest of the miscellaneous, approving a reestablishment of an account fund for receiving gifts and grants for the recreation department, donations for the rec therapy division in the amount of $145, acceptance of ARP grants for school early education and the rec department's after school program, approving a new alternate manager for NETA, alternate managers for Mission Incorporated, temporary wine and malt beverage non-sales licenses, mostly to Lars Anderson for a variety of dates, and to all alcohol beverages non-sales license to St. Mary's of the Assumption Catholic Church, and also Mamala's Delicatessen, a temporary wine and malt beverage sales license. All those in favor? John, Bernard,
Aye.
Raul,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Miriam,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. And I will turn it over to the town administrator, Mel Kleckner, for a recommendation on personnel.
Yes, thank you, Chair Hamilton, and good evening, members of the board. Tonight, it's a great pleasure for me to make a recommendation to fill a vacancy in our department head ranks. In this case, it is my recommendation for your appointment of Kara Bruton as the town's Planning and Community Development Director. As you know, Allison Steinfeld has been the director for many years and has announced her retirement, and she's retiring at the end of this week, actually. I think you know the town's practice and my personal practice is to engage in a very open and competitive process for department heads. There are rare instances when I choose to waive that process and go directly to a recommendation. This is one of those rare cases. I think you know that Kara Bruton, I think you all know Kara Bruton, and she has been with the town for almost 15 years in a division head position within the planning department, very important division of economic development and long-term planning. During the last transition, Kara served in the interim role for a period of, I think it was at least a year. And so obviously she knows the department very well, has actually been in the position of having to manage the personnel and the activities of the department for a period. Her outstanding performance and her credibility, I think, is unassailable. And for those reasons, I thought it was really important at this time that Kara Bruton is the person. So this is not, to be clear, this is not an interim appointment. This is a permanent position, department head appointment. And I would recommend that the board vote for Kara Bruton as Director of Planning and Community Development, effective on October 8th. Thank you. Kara is here in the event that you do want to talk to her. I know if your vote is positive, she definitely wants to say a few words.
Great. Well, why don't we dispense with the formalities first, unless anyone wants to hold off. But I would like to move the permanent appointment of Kara Bruton as our planning director so that we can congratulate her after the vote. All those in favor? Bernard,
Aye.
Raul,
Enthusiastic aye.
John,
Equally enthusiastic, aye.
Miriam,
Well, I just have to be a third enthusiastic aye.
I'm enthusiastic too.
and the chair votes aye. Any select board member want to say something? And then we will, of course, give Kara an opportunity to say her a few words. I see Bernard's hand up first and then Miriam.
Okay. I want to thank Mel for coming up with this great appointment. Kara's been around for a long time, so she's someone who's come up through the pipeline, knows the town. We know her, and I'm very, very excited about her moving into this position. I guess I have a question to Mel. Is it going to be any unusual process for replacing Kara in her position? Or is
An unusual process, or
well, other than that, the regular process we go by for appointing people in that level of positions.
yes, we would follow the normal procedures to fill that position. Thank you.
Miriam?
So first, congratulations. And it may be in your remarks, but I would just love to hear a few of your priorities that you would like to elevate in this position. And I'm really excited to be working with you.
Thank you.
Raul.
I had my hand up.
Oh, sorry, John.
John's been waiting.
Sorry, I took my hand down, but not for that reason. So congratulations, Kara. And I'm going to claim just a little bit of, excuse me, extra knowledge where Kara is concerned, because she has been helping immeasurably with the Boylston Street Corridor Study Committee and our work on that important piece of Brookline that has great potential to host some initiatives that we're going to try to nurture. But we could not get through the very necessary, excuse me, planning process without Kara's able presence every step of the way. And I did have a word or two to share, excuse me, again, share with some committee members at our meeting on Monday, just yesterday. And as I said to them, the only downside I see to this is if for any reason we have any less of Kara on the Boylston Street Corridor Study Committee, but I know she's going to try to juggle everything that she can and stay focused not just on her new responsibilities, but also on the Boylston Street Corridor Study Committee. So thank you again, Kara, and thank you, Mel. Brookline is the beneficiary of a really good appointment here.
Right, Raul.
Couldn't agree more. I'll also say, be remiss if we didn't say, thank you to Allison Steinfeld for her service to the town. And I think, having Kara in this position, the fact that these 5 board members who oftentimes disagree on any number of issues are united in our enthusiasm for your appointment, I think really speaks volumes to the way that you engage with the board, the way that you engage with the community, and your colleagues. So just really enthused to have you in this position.
Great. Kara, would you like to make a few words or say a few words?
Thank you. Thank you, Town Administrator Kleckner and the Select Board for this appointment. I've learned so much from Director Allison Steinfeld. I'm glad Raul mentioned her, especially through her dedication and support to our employees. So I just want to say thank you, Allison, for your leadership and service to your hometown. The Planning Department's next chapter must include experimentation, innovation, and that's in addition to celebrating our every day-to-day work. We are responsible for positively affecting not only the people that live and work here today, but also those who could be part of Brookline community in the future. Brookline's capacity and drive to take local action and leadership to address the region's housing crisis, our nation's systemic racial inequalities, and our global climate emergency are what make this community such a rewarding place to work. These are the challenges and issues that keep our staff up at night, and I do not mean just because of the public meetings. The Planning and Community Development Department will strive to advance projects and initiatives that strengthen the physical, social, and economic fabric of our community in every neighborhood, as well as bring additional resources to the table in support of these initiatives through expansion of new property tax growth. In the coming months, our department staff will be back in front of the board with recommendations ranging from life science labs to nonprofit affordable housing on town properties, complete street concept designs for Lower Boylston Street, post-COVID recovery projects in our commercial areas, solar panels at the Municipal Service Center, and grant-funded research on building deconstruction methods and related policies. So I look forward to working with you all in this new role, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Kara. Very excited to see you take on this role.
Good luck at town meeting. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I understand that we have the person who signed up for public comment. Devin, if you want to promote her, she's got 3 minutes.
Hi, Rochelle. You've been promoted to a panelist. You can unmute and share your video if you're comfortable, and your 3 minutes will begin.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak before the select board. My concern is the following. I really support a vaccine mandate for employees. I just had a situation in my house. I'm having some renovations done, and the building inspector came to the door, did not say his vaccination status. I had to ask him. It turned out he wasn't vaccinated. He claimed to have more than natural immunity, which I told him was, you can imagine what I told him. So I asked him to put on a mask. He came in, he did his inspection and left. But it seemed to me that there should be a policy. I would support, of course, a vaccine mandate. But if that's not going to happen, at least there should be a policy for all town employees coming into somebody's home to announce their vaccination status and be wearing a mask.
Thank you very much. Mel, would you like to just respond succinctly with what our current policy is and what you've been working on?
Sure. Well, we certainly have a mask mandate for employees who are interacting with the public. And I won't speak about this specific incident in detail, but I will tell you that there is absolutely a mask mandate. We do not require employees to disclose the nature of their vaccination status. We are working on a mandatory vaccine program with our unions and employees, and I am personally in favor of that. I believe it would put everybody in a safer position. Thank you.
Thank you so much for notifying the town when that happened, Ms. Rothschild.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to our scheduled public hearings. I know that we have a number of speakers signed up. So this is my proposal. We'll put off collective bargaining and go straight to the marijuana related warrant articles. Perhaps what I can do is open the public hearings for articles, I believe 7, 8, and 9, because I think most people will have remarks that are very broad, and those that understand the nuance of the differences between the articles can also say that. And I want to encourage the select board members to not speak like we usually do before we open it up to public comment. So the thing that I'm torn about is whether or not to limit remarks to 2 minutes per person. How do others feel about that? Miriam?
How many people do we have signed up?
I believe 11, but I expect it to be maybe 15 when everything is all said and done. So
I think you just answered your own question.
John?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think 2 minutes is a good idea. And I hope it isn't too much of a burden for the people attending tonight.
Okay. Bernard?
Yeah, I think you've done a good job in terms of sort of clearing the plate for, for this discussion. And, it's going to be an intense discussion, and limiting it to 2 minutes, may not be the best way to get out or to give people an opportunity to express their views one way or the other. So, whatever people think, but I think 3 minutes is probably more appropriate.
Well, I can be talked into
2.5.
Why don't we split it to 2.5? And I will say this. You can, as somebody who has signed up to speak and making public comments, feel free to let us know. And I say this because we've gotten a number of emails over the past few days. If you're just against permitting retail marijuana, like carte blanche, just say that. You don't necessarily need to expound on that. But what I will find out of scope is trying to litigate whether or not marijuana should even be legal. We've had that discussion as a society, and we have voted on it as a state, and we are past that point. So those are the rules that I'm setting. So Devin, Please promote the first person.
The first person signed up for public comment on warrant Article 7 is Alok Samani. Alok, you've been promoted to a panelist, and your 2.5 minutes will begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Devin, I had a slide. Would you be able to put that up or not?
I actually don't have that, but you have, I don't have it downloaded, but
Yeah,
you do
it's
have
not a-
screen share privileges.
Okay, it's not a worry. My name is Alok Samani. I'm a resident of Precinct 5, and I appreciate this opportunity to address the select board with respect to warrant Article 7, which proposes to license 2 new recreational marijuana stores. My comment is as follows. We have 4 already. So as Chairperson Hamilton has pointed out, access to recreational marijuana is already in our town, and it's here to stay. As she pointed out, the voters have voted to make recreational marijuana available. The select board says it wants to issue 2 more in addition to the 4 that we already have. And part of the reason is to fix what we perhaps got wrong the last time, which is when we issued the 4 licenses, we were not able to issue them to social equity candidates. So the purpose is put forth is to issue these 2 in order to address this, the social equity issues, and provide these licenses for equity candidates. But the policy that was written by the select board seems to rely on the same state guidelines that were guiding the initial licensing. And Neil Wyshynski recently said at the advisory committee subcommittee that was considering this warrant article, and this is a matter of public record, and hopefully I'm paraphrasing him correctly, is that one of his biggest regrets in his time at the select board was going too fast and issuing licenses without making sure that those licenses addressed social equity. And it really seems to me that we're headed down the same path now. So, and more importantly, if our goal is social equity with respect to the recreational marijuana industry, then focusing our effort on the 4 existing licensees seems to be a better return for our effort. We can take the time to first make sure we have a framework in place to monitor their performance. And we can help them to deliver on the promises they have made in their host community agreements. And I believe we'll get a much better return on our objective of creating social equity.
You have 30 seconds.
Thank you. So I would please urge the select board to consider, and I know, Heather, you've said this to me before, I really urge you guys to withdraw warrant Article 7 and support warrant Article 9, which will give our community the time and the space to really consider our goals. Thank you.
The next person signed up for comment is Richard Strock. Richard, you've been promoted to a panelist, and your 3 minutes will begin when you unmute.
2.5.
Sorry.
That's okay.
My daughter, who may speak also, has corrected me because she's much better on Zoom. Thank you all for hearing me. This is my second time coming before you, and I'm hoping that I'm coming from a place of a little better education today, because I had a wonderful conversation with John that lasted about an hour, I would say, John. And he really helped me and spent a lot of time discussing the ins and outs of this. So I'll try not to go into too much detail. I fully appreciate what the board is trying to do here and the intent. I am worried about the reality of the situation and the execution in the following sense. I think that from what I'm hearing and what I'm observing, and I have a school-age daughter who again may speak, there is an incredible amount of pressure on our kids, and there's a lot of social damage from the standpoint of the medical safety of this. And we are just learning about marijuana because it has been a controlled substance for so long and in so many ways, and there's not a lot of money that promotes research. We are finding out, and I will not go into the details here, I'll send this in a message so you guys can have access to some research, though, but for instance, doctors in ERs now are seeing people show up with persistent vomiting, and they don't even, this is not a mystery to them. They know it is marijuana induced, a sensitivity that's occurring in people who are using marijuana that has THC, and I may misquote this number, but I believe it's 50 times the levels of what we had. There is not causation, but correlation studies showing that there is a great increase in suicidal ideation among our young people. there is a RAND Corporation study that shows the legitimization of the industry has lowered barriers to use among young people. And I personally just found out the other day about a friend whose child had become addicted. 10% of all users will go on to become addicted. I don't think we understand this well enough. And well, and I'm going to tell one story that really sent chills through my spine.
You
And
have
I
30
hope you-
seconds.
Okay, sorry. What I'd like to propose is this. I'd like to propose a compromise. I would like to say, what if we were to put out warrant Article 7 as stating that for right now, we will, the next, should a license become available, the next 2 licenses will be social equity licenses. Let's put in place the round down of warrant Article 8, and let's enable the study committee. And let's learn. John actually said to me, he wants to know, what does this mean with our schools? We're getting feedback from the school professionals just right now. Then we can always move forward and we can amplify social equity if we need to. Thank you very much.
The next person signed up for public comment is Susan Park. Susan, you've been promoted to a panelist and your 2.5 minutes will begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Select Board and Mel and Melissa. And I'd like to first say that, unfortunately, it was sad that Richard could not tell his story. He had shared that story with me, so I actually am going to share it for him because he did say that it brings chills down his spine, which for a person like Richard, I think rarely happens or happens not a lot. So, we had been talking about cannabis use in the schools. I had reached out to Assistant Dean at the BHS, and he basically, I'm telling him about this warrant article, and he said, if there's nothing else, can you please make sure that we get vaporizer detectors? And I said, why is that? And he said, because their kids are vaping, the access is evident and we can't detect it. He says that they are smoking, but the way that the when you release it, it just dissolves into the air. So he was saying we need money for that because they can't detect it, which is really sad. And then I did get an email from an 8th grade parent. This is anonymous because we do have 8 schools in Brookline. And unfortunately, in this one particular school, there's 80% of 8th graders who are smoking, which is really unfortunate. Now, to the story about Richard's stroke, he said, not my daughter, she will not. There's no way. But he was, they had a conversation one night and he basically said, if you were asked, do you think that you would try it? And because of the culture and the climate and the access that has increased, and we know the access has increased because BPEN, Brookline Parent Education Network, they did a survey and the students at BHS are saying it has increased. And she basically said, well, and that's why it gave him chills down the spine because we all think that our kids are not going to. My own personal story is that
30 seconds.
My daughter who graduated from BHS basically told me, and same thing, good kids, are happy. She basically said, I would not send our youngest there. And I said, well, why not? And she basically said, whoever you send to BHS, the chances that they're going to smoke is pretty high because of the access that is increasing, especially in the last 3 years. And with that, I will just
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thank you.
The next person signed up for public comment is Dr. Wright. You've been promoted to a panelist. You can unmute and your 2.5 minutes will begin.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Reich and I'm Dr. Lavin from eSeeker Pediatrics in Coolidge Corner. So let me start. So we wanted to say that this is a very serious topic, but in terms of the medical perspective, we want to say that there are different national surveys in youth that measure indicators of health in these groups. And unfortunately, the fact that legalization of medical and recreational marijuana has been approved has resulted in increased use of marijuana in adolescents. And I do believe that people need to be aware that with the opioid epidemic, this is a major concern, since some of these statistics show that the people from 18 to 30 admit of using marijuana before they use other drugs. And based on a body of various studies, research suggests that marijuana use is likely to predict the use of other illicit substances. And in terms of youth, this is an incredible high risk in already a society with an incredibly high level of illegal substance use. And the other part of this is that during the prior town meeting, I am concerned that marijuana is truly targeting minority youth. The use has increased significantly in Black, Latinos, and the LGBTQ communities. And we have to also think about the vulnerability of these populations. And then I will let Dr. Wright speak.
So as Dr. Lavin said, the more access, the more use is going up. And studies have shown conclusively that teenagers who smoke marijuana have slower processing speeds, poor verbal learning and memory skills, poor sequencing abilities, and poor attention span. Those effects even persist when they stop using. So when they abstain, they still have, particularly the attention span is harmed by their use of marijuana. And even when they've quit and abstained, they still have poor functioning. This effect is greater the younger they initiate and the more they smoke. So we know that the more access leads to more use, and it is medically, we just feel concerning for the teenagers of Brookline to have, you know, as much marijuana use as we know is happening, and then more access, creating more use, creating more problems for the kids.
So as a practice, we would like to advocate for Rule 9 or Law Number 9, because we actually need as a community to understand what is happening before we just try to follow something written in a piece of paper, such as the law of cannabis, without having a serious true impact at all levels. So we support number 9.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person signed up for public comment is Cher Duffield. You've been promoted to a panelist. You can unmute and your 2.5 minutes will begin.
Hi, Cher Duffield. I'm a town meeting member from Precinct 6. I have 3 children at BHS and 1 in the pipeline. And I'm just speaking off the cuff. So you've already heard that increased presence leads to increased use, right? We have normalization, and we've heard that 1 in 6 kids who tries cannabis in high school become addicted. So we don't have any data right now on what's happening in Brookline, if that has happened yet. But why not be cautious? We want to go slow. We don't think there's any hurry to add additional licenses until we've done a full study to really understand the implications. And really, there's no hurry. We know that the data will lag. I spent the whole morning with a friend of mine whose son has been addicted to marijuana, and she spent the last couple of years sending him to a boarding school and now re-entering him back in the community, and they're spending all their time on this issue. So I would just ask that you really be cautious, go slow, think of the kids who don't have a voice in this, wait for some data. We do have a little bit of early data, as the physicians just said, but please just be cautious and think about our most vulnerable citizens, who are the kids, and think about that as the primary social equity issue we need to keep at the forefront when we're looking for all the other things that we want to get from marijuana, such as access and revenue. We really need to be thinking about what this does to the kids. Thank you.
The next person signed up for public comment is Jan Vezikov. You've been promoted to a panelist. You can unmute and share your video if you're comfortable, and your 2.5 minutes will begin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jan Vezikov, married to Tanya for 15 years. Tanya and I moved here. We have been living in Brookline for 7 years. We have 4 daughters, all attend Ridley School from 7th grade, 5th grade, first grade and BEEP. And we moved here because Brookline had a reputation for loving families, caring for children, as a family-friendly town. And with the pandemic, one of the things I haven't realized is because I've been so focused on raising our girls is how things have changed. And I'm here just to speak as a father. And I just ask that you hear my father's heart. And it breaks my heart to hear that 80% of 8th graders are smoking marijuana. And there's only one reason for that, and that's access. Access has increased. So if the town does care for families, the town must do what's best for families, and what's best for families is what's best for children. And the science is absolutely clear. It's settled science that when children smoke marijuana, it messes with the gray matter of their brains. If the town cares for children, the town has to follow the science. If the town doesn't follow the science, it communicates that it either doesn't care for children or it cares for something more than children. So what is blinding the town to the science? What is blinding the town to caring for our children? And the only thing I see, and this is after, we're talking about a 5th and a 6th store, the only thing I see is greed, and it's profits. And love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. So I ask that we not just take money into this conversation, but we do care about what this is doing to our town, to our children's safety and the future of our children. One of the reasons why we moved here from Boston is because we wanted to walk our kids to school. And my wife and I, we walk our kids to school every morning, and we have to walk by marijuana stores. Walking by one marijuana store
You have
is
30
one
seconds.
store too many. And we're talking about how many stores? We don't have one. We have 2, 3, and 4, and we're not even talking about those 4 stores. We're talking about 2 more stores. If one shop is too many for a child to walk by on a daily basis, twice a day, 5 days a week, then 2 more is too much. And my last question that I'll leave with you is this: how many more marijuana stores do we need? Go to Google Maps, type in marijuana, and red dots populate the map. And there's more red dots than there are for Dunkin' Donuts. Thank you so much for listening.
Next person signed up for public comment is Key Park. You've been promoted to a panelist, and your 2 minutes and 30 seconds will begin when you're ready.
Thanks, Devin. First of all, thank you for allowing me to express my concerns regarding the proliferation of cannabis shops in Brookline. I am a father of 3 girls. One of them is a 7th grader in Florida Ruffin Ridley School. A few weeks ago, as I was walking my dog along Harvard Street, I came face to face with a full-length street-level billboard for a cannabis delivery service. This billboard was just 2 blocks away from my daughter's school on a major street. And I started to wonder, what is Brookline doing to protect the children from the aggressive and apparently unchecked promotion by the cannabis industry? Do we know how many cannabis stores are needed to serve the population of Brookline? And I think we far exceeded that need. What will be the long-term effect to the community, especially to our children, of allowing marijuana shops to proliferate and market themselves? I don't think we know the answers to these important questions. I believe the select board should put a moratorium on any additional licenses for cannabis stores for now, and form an impact study committee to responsibly guide Brookline's policies on cannabis stores and including their marketing methods. Thus, I recommend a no vote on warrant Article 7 and a yes vote on warrant Articles 8 and 9. Thank you.
Next person signed up for comment is Georgina Garcia. You've been promoted to a panelist. You can unmute and your time will begin.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Georgina. Actually, I've been a resident since about 2003, and I'm the mother of 3 children here in Coolidge Corner. But believe it or not, it took my dog at the dog park today to hear about this. So I apologize if I speak quickly because when I heard about it, I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist I'm on staff at Boston Children's Hospital and Franciscan Children's Hospital. And for the past year, I also have been through Franciscans working through the Boston Public Schools. So when everybody else took a hiatus, I actually have been going full speed, if not faster than speed, for mental health purposes. So it's something that I felt immediately. And I just wanted to share and reiterate some of the things that Dr. Reich and the other physician, I apologize, I don't remember your name, reiterated. And I wanted to tell you that I mean, I looked it up. I was looking this up literally today, but I was shocked. I am a mother of 2 teenagers, and according to the Massachusetts Registry, 1 in 3 of our children are vaping. And right now, I don't know if you guys know this, but one of the most common things that I hear from people is that marijuana is so safe. It's so safe. It's not addictive. It's not this. And I have to tell you that I always tell the kids this, but the marijuana that the children are now using and vaping and the potency can increase as much as 200+% in terms of its potency. And yes, it can be addictive. It can be habit forming, as can the tobacco. And for those people who say, well, I had to have this argument like once every couple of weeks with kids originally when marijuana became legalized, but it was added to the diagnostic manual. Marijuana, addiction. I always show it to the kids, and I show it up to them, and I say, you can have withdrawal, you can have tolerance, you can need more and more to get the same buzz and the same feel. And I am concerned because, as they mentioned, marijuana is a gateway drug for our kids. Studies have shown time and time again that the use of marijuana and tobacco later on predicts increased use of substance use and increased use of marijuana. And I just want to say that I think that people don't realize the medical aspects as well. I don't know if you folks know that there is something that is now a pandemic or epidemic with the, it's called EVALA, e-cigarette vaping and product use associated with lung injury. Those are things that are negatively impacting disproportionately the Latino population. Cigarette smoking, even though African Americans don't cigarette smoke as high as Caucasians, they actually have worse health outcomes, and it contributes to the highest leading causes of death for African Americans. So I just want to say that in terms of—
You've reached 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thank you.
The next person signed up for comment is Kate Silba. You have been promoted, and when you unmute, your time will begin.
New licenses should be an action item that you take because you formulated goals through a public process, determined that this is the optimal way to achieve them, and that you, the select board, will be effective at doing so, past experience notwithstanding. Instead, you're experimenting again through this proposal. You have not studied the specific reasons that the only equity the select board achieved with our operators is private equity. And you still haven't systematically studied how the existing shops could do better on equity. You should have a committee study what specifically in our zoning and operating regulations gave us this outcome and what the menu of ways to repair that inequitable outcome are. I've heard you all hypothesize on this, and you're missing a lot when you jump to new licenses. A public committee also needs to study what equity means in the cannabis context. Ownership, or just running staff through the SEB program, staff who are BIPOC or impacted personally by the war on drugs. I've been personally impacted by it. Am I what you guys are looking for? Or is being a resident of Brookline the all-important metric? Did you choose that metric in a public process before we trust you with new licenses? And it's unusually troubling that this board is asking us to trust you to experiment with new policies, because this board handed out all of the current licenses without formulated effective equity goals or studying how to achieve them, and continues not to study what failed or what can be changed short of this vaguely crafted do-over that gives you all of the discretion. You've not shown us a systematic effort with current operators. You've just scolded them, and you've not studied the reasons for your limited success. You're frustrated your oversight power is incomplete, but you've got more levers than you've been willing to exercise. If you need more warrant articles to improve your leverage, to generate incentives with current operators, those can be crafted. New licenses are a quick fix to a board that hasn't earned a quick fix by seriously assessing what's wrong with our regs. We put
30 seconds.
this exact study committee in front of town meeting in 2019. Here's how you all voted on that study committee. Hamilton, Green, and Fernandez voted to kill that study committee in 2019. Ashkenazi didn't vote. Only Van Scoyac voted to study how we can do better with equity, supervisions, harms, planning, and impacts to inform further warrant articles, whether those articles are more licenses or to change operations or other incentives to improve equity. This board owes this town study of the subject. This is not good government. This board was referred creation of that study committee in 2019 by town meeting, and I urge you to actually create that committee now and do it right. We cannot be giving you the ability to experiment with quick fixes a second time.
Thank you.
The next person signed up for public comment is Anna Albuquerque. You've been promoted to a panelist. Your time will begin when you're ready.
Thank you. I have to say that I fully agree with Kate Silva. Thank you, Kate, for that. So I appreciate what the select board is trying to do, but I'm sure we can all come up with ideas to allow equity opportunity for other businesses that are not only marijuana stores. We don't know the full impact of marijuana on kids, so we need a study. We need a study to see what is the consequence of increasing the number of stores, but certainly having more stores gives kids the continued impression that it's harmless. Doing marijuana is harmless. The revenue to the town does not justify the cost associated with marijuana addiction in kids or in the parents of kids. I am very unfortunately in a situation where my daughter started to experiment with it in high school, Brookline High. It is now 6 years since that time occurred, and I can tell you it's extremely costly going through treatment and all the pain that parents have to go through it. It's extremely costly, and this is just one family. I have also to tell you that I have a second son that did not go to Brookline High School. If I had more kids, I would be leaving Brookline. I came here because this was the best place to raise a family, and I don't think it is anymore. And so I do think that we need to be very careful on what we are doing with our town. Thank you.
The next person signed up for public comment is Rachel Strock. You've been promoted to a panelist. You can unmute and share your video if you're comfortable, and your time will begin.
Hi, so my name is Rachel Strock, and I'm an 8th grader in Brookline. And so I already know that we have 4 marijuana shops in our town and that you want to add 2 more. And I really feel like it would be very detrimental to a lot of the adolescents in this town. That I know that as I get older and I go to high school, I will encounter situations where my friends will want me to try it and I'll have to say no. And those kind of situations with peer pressure can be really stressful, and they can even ruin friendships that I have. So I think that even though that we already have some marijuana shops, we shouldn't add more, that it will only make the situation worse. And that, like, I know people may not realize it, but there are a lot of kids who it will affect in different ways besides just like hurting them physically. It will also affect their emotional health, especially with issues related to peer pressure. And I also think from the physical side that marijuana is really, it's really bad for people, and that it can ruin their life in a lot of different ways. So I think adding more shops will only make the situation worse, and that we shouldn't do it. Thank you.
The next person signed up for public comment is Tiffany Ryan. You've been promoted to a panelist, and your time will begin once you unmute.
Hi there. My name is Tiffany Rene. I have 4 children. We have lived in Brookline for 13 years. And the reason I wanted to speak today is because I have, like the person before me, we moved to Brookline just thinking it was this perfect place for families, and have since, having kids start in the high school and marijuana dispensaries coming to the town, we actually have a junior in high school who, partly because of the high number of kids using marijuana and the pressures on her and her beginning to use, we pulled her out of Brookline High School to I'm a public school teacher, my mom is, my grandparents are. I'm a public school advocate, but I needed to go to a school that had stricter rules around this and kept those rules. And I think so we've now pulled her out and she's in a private school, which I'm sort of sad about, to be honest. And I guess the way, of course, these are all social issues, but I do know that the more exposure, the more sort of acceptable these things become, and the advertisement being that it's just like here and okay, it's not okay for our teenagers, and I am incredibly opposed to having any more marijuana shops. So that's my story. Thanks for letting me speak.
The next person signed up for comment is Areg Dana Goulian, you've been promoted to a panelist and your time will begin when you're ready.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to comment. I want to reflect on some things that people have already said. Let me start off by saying that generally I am for legalization of most drugs. At the same time, I believe that legalization of drugs should be coupled with strict age limits on the use of the drugs. I'm afraid that the city of Brookline hasn't done as much of a good job in enforcing age limits. We have seen an explosion of cannabis use among adolescent population. I'm speaking as a parent of a teenager myself, and I have seen, in her case, significant use of cannabis. It worries me tremendously that we are expanding the trade of cannabis in the city. As long as Brookline has not proven that it is capable of putting strict limits of use of drugs, cannabis in particular, as well as other drugs, among the adolescent population of the city, I believe it is completely premature to expand the cannabis business in the city. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
The next person signed up for public comment is Thomas Stalkup. You've been promoted to a panelist. Your time will begin when you're ready.
Yes, hello. Hi, my name is Tom Stalkup. This is my wife, Nazneen. I'm a school council member for Rough and Ridley, and I have one daughter in that school. And I gave a presentation at the last school council meeting about Black achievement. And if I could share my screen, I'm going to try to now to show you some graphs. Okay, hopefully you still hear me. This is the achievements of the Black student versus the white students in what is this? This is a meeting or exceeding expectations in English as language as a second art is blue, and red is Black in the meeting expectations in math. And you see the Black students perform very poorly in our school here. And so I made this presentation for talking about equity. But I do not believe these numbers will get any better. I think they'll get worse by opening these new shops. And so I would support the warrant Article 9 and the denying of these new licenses. And I think, as I'm sitting here listening to everyone, what I was going to say is, what needs to be done is, I believe it was Dr. Jett in the Department of Public Health who 2 years ago recommended that the schools, the middle schools actually, start doing the training and the education that's required to keep kids educated as how addictive these substances are. And he made a request 2 years ago. And I'm hoping that now, since we have a public meeting, that the town could second his request. So the school committee and the new principal, who was a wonderful gentleman, we met him, all the school council members did. And I think he would be on board with taking Dr. Jett's very reasonable recommendation to get this education starting in the middle schools, not waiting until high school, because, as we're saying, 8th graders are becoming highly addicted, 80% in one school. I talked to a parent who told me, actually a former school council member, that said there was marijuana that was smelled in.
You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, smelled inside Rough and Ridley School, and my girl goes there. So it's a big issue, and I hope you consider that. And I just want to ask maybe the commissioner if he can right now second Dr. Jett's request to the school committee.
Which commissioner were you talking about?
Isn't he this is my first time at school town meeting. I believe it's Kleckner. Is he the commissioner? If he could second the recommendation of Dr. Jett to start this education in the middle schools.
You're talking about the town administrator. I'm going to.
Sorry.
I'm going to put a pin in that because there's kind of a firewall between the select board and the school committee. The school committee has the purview over what goes on in the schools. But I think Miriam, my fellow select board member, who also has kids in the Brookline Public Schools and is a medical professional, will probably say something about that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments, Devin?
For the folks who signed up in advance, the only person who is not here is Judy Austin. I'm just sharing that for the record. And I did want to make board members aware that there is a public comment in the Q&A. This person is just writing to express their objection about the approval of new marijuana stores in North Brookline. That comment has been captured for the record in the meeting minutes.
Great, thank you very much. And any other additional comments can always reach us at selectboard@brooklinema.gov, which is our email address.
Chair Hamilton, it does look like there's one more request for comment if you haven't closed the public hearing.
I have not, so please promote.
Hi, sorry. I thought I had signed up, but I must have pushed the wrong button. I appreciate the opportunity to speak a lot. I want to just sort of generally and non-specifically speak out in favor of more dispensary licenses. I think it sounds like I'm a little bit of a lonely voice on this call, but I don't think I'm a lonely voice in Brookline. It's 2021. We've tried just lots of years of fear and prohibition and pushing it underground, and like Heather said at the beginning, that ship sailed. We legalized it. It's available for recreational use. There's a lot of concerns on this call that are real and valid, but I don't think have anything to do with having a couple more dispensaries around. Pots, of course, marijuana is harmful. Of course, it's bad if you smoke it when you're a kid. Of course, it's tempting to teenagers. I want to emphasize that it's not some new scourge. Hopefully everyone on this call went to high school, and if you think this is a new thing since we opened up dispensaries, it's absolutely not. Alcohol is dangerous when you use it too young or when you have too much of it. Unlike marijuana, you can die of an alcohol overdose, right? Alcohol is available everywhere. It's certainly tempting to teenagers. It's definitely a gateway drug. Unlike marijuana, it's associated with violence and sexual assault, and we have a normalization of alcohol. We have plenty. Just think of are we going to allow 2 more Trader Joe's to sell beer, right? If that was the conversation we were having, picture that that conversation. And
you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. In the context of alcohol, which is as far as I can tell, and as far as the numbers show, it's worse for society than marijuana. But we're okay with it, and we deal with it appropriately. And so it's 2021, guys. Let's move on a little. Thank you.
I do see that there is a hand raised in the attendee list. I will remind folks who are interested in making a public comment that you need to accept the invitation to be promoted to a panelist.
So we'll give her a minute, but not too much longer. So I do want to open this up for discussion by the board. Do we have Monique here? Okay. Is she is the person who wanted to make a public comment accepting the request, or no?
No.
Okay. So I will close the public hearing and let me know if she gets in touch with you, and we will figure it out.
Chair Hamilton, the person who I noted earlier in the record who was signed up in advance has just arrived. Judy Austin, you're being promoted to a panelist, so please accept that invitation. Hey, Judy, you've been promoted. You can unmute, and your 2.5 minutes will begin when you're ready.
Hello.
I'm ready.
You have 2.5 minutes.
Okay. So what I'd like to say is that I think Brookline is a beautiful, beautiful city, and I think that there is no need to add more cannabis stores to Brookline. The reason being that there are a lot of youth that walk along those streets, and as an addictions counselor myself, I know full well that cannabis actually affects every nerve in the body. It changes the brain, it changes the adolescent brain. It is actually a demotivator. It actually lowers IQ. All of this stuff, all of you can read about. And so I'm probably preaching to the choir about some of this. But let me just tell you that, again, alcohol would be a Schedule I drug today. We're just way too embedded. So we can't even go there, okay? So there's no argument against, so why do we have alcohol? That's not the issue. The issue is cannabis. Cannabis changes the adolescent brain. It actually demotivates people. It creates huge amounts of anxiety. It actually changes the motor function of the body. I have a number of cases that I could cite to you, but I won't because I don't have the time. I won't tell you about that. It's not a gateway drug. It's a drug in and of itself that is really, really not good for anybody other than the medically treated. And I'll tell you what, it's just not a great idea to—
You have 30 seconds.
I think that, you would be wise to think about gelate stations, good, healthy things for us to make Brookline a more beautiful place for people to be all the way around. So that's really what I want to say. Promote the health of Brookline, not the wealth of Brookline. Brookline has plenty of wealth.
Have we heard from the attendee who wanted to speak?
All set.
Okay, great. So let's get some initial reactions. Glad to see Monique Baldwin join us. Bernard, you're muted.
Sorry. I just have a few comments based on the discussion, which I found very helpful and useful. I don't think anyone is arguing that marijuana is not very bad for youth and for adults, for that matter. But the issue is it's legal, and we're not going to be spitting into that wind. More marijuana shops will not increase our revenue, so revenue greed is not an issue here. More marijuana shops probably should be more strictly regulated in terms of ads. I agree with that. I'm glad people raise that issue. It is a problem. I agree that we need to really push the school committee. I mean, we don't have any control over them, but ask why. We don't have a robust educational program in the middle schools. I was told we had, but apparently not. I don't know. Maybe we do. When my son was at Brookline High School before legalization, he told me that marijuana was all over the place. That there's no difficulty getting that drug, and I'm really more concerned about the illegal marijuana, like back in those days, as well as today, than I am about the highly regulated and controlled cannabis that is sold in these stores. Those are just a few comments. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to vote one way or the other, but I just wanted to raise those few comments.
Miriam and then John. And so this is a delicate balance. We still need to technically hear from the petitioners on warrant article 8 and 9. So we will be hearing from them, and we really do need to revote on the geothermal for Driscoll. all by 6:45. So, Miriam.
Okay, so I'm going to start out with some of my credentials because I think they're relevant here. I am a physician. I'm not just a physician. I was an emergency medicine frontline physician for 18 years. That means I saw all the drug abuse. I saw marijuana hyperemesis syndrome. I saw narcotic abuse and lots of alcohol abuse. I have a master's in public health. I am a parent of 2 students in the Brookline school system, one of which is a 9th grader at the high school. So I share a lot of the credentials that have been shared with you tonight. And I have 3 things to say. I mean, more, but I'm going to limit to 3. You're welcome, Heather. The first is along the lines of Bernard, this is not about revenue. I think we need to just dismiss that argument. It's false. This is about equity. So let's keep our eye on the prize. The second is the gateway theory of drug addiction has been disproven. There was if you're looking for the study, there are many studies, but Stanley and Watson did a study called Marijuana and Medicine Assessing the Science, which they showed after looking at 20+ years of research that in fact it is nicotine and alcohol that you put people at most risk for using other drugs before the legal age, not marijuana. So we need to dispense of the, it's literally, if you can Google it, it is a myth, the gateway theory of drug addiction. And the third is there has been no causal connection shown that increased marijuana dispensaries result in increased teenage use of marijuana. Causal studies are causality, and some people did actually allude to that, are extremely challenging studies to do. So I don't mind talking about the issues, but I do want to keep it fact-based. That's very important for me. And, I think that this is an equity issue. And for me, it's an equity issue. And I also have to say, I really take offense to the one, I'm just going to call it out, but to the one presenter who implied that Black students are somehow going to be more disproportionately affected than white students. I'd like to see the data on that. Yes, in fact, Black people have been more disproportionately affected by marijuana rates than white people. That's why this is an equity issue. So I appreciate all of the comments, but please, let's keep it fact-based.
John.
Yeah, I want to thank all of the folks who spoke tonight. And I do apologize that we did have to limit the time for each speaker, but I think people understand why. I've spoken to some of these same people and some other people as well in person to person. I've tried to reply to every one of the emails I've received on this subject. And I point that out only to sort of make the point that I really do respect the concerns of these folks. I don't agree with them on their position on the Warren article on the equity licenses, but what they're saying is marijuana legalization comes with some issues, and some of those issues impact kids. And we have to really pay attention when we hear that kids are being impacted, whether it's by cannabis or vaping of nicotine or other kinds of habits. I actually was aware of a significant vaping problem because of my connection to the Brookline Center for Community Mental Health. I would say 3 years ago, and I think I even brought this up at one of our meetings, or one of the meetings of the select board before I was elected to the board, because it just floored me that at a meeting of the center board, someone who was connected with intake, case intake, said the number one problem they were having was family stress because children were vaping. That was number one. Was a situation that had just kind of come out of nowhere, and parents and their children were having conflicts in the home because the children were addicted and they couldn't break the addiction. And, so when you hear parents express their concerns, I want us to take them very seriously. I don't see the connection to denying 2 more licenses in Brookline. I really don't. And I think the other board members have kind of enunciated why that's a disconnect for me. These problems existed before we came to the decision to try to add 2 equity licenses. They will exist after. And what I'd like to see happen as a result of the testimony of people tonight is that there's kind of a wake-up call in the community that we're not doing enough to foster conversations within families, conversations at school committee meetings, conversations at the high school. And we need to have those conversations to get further information as to what extent is this actually adding to the stress on young people, and to what extent can we address that with programs that, first of all, limit as much as possible the illegal spread of these products among children in the schools. And I have to just remind everyone, what you heard described tonight is not a permitted use. It's happening illegally, and we need to figure out how we can use the limits of regulation and the law to rein it in a little bit. But we also need to address the mental health issues. And I'll leave it at that. I can see that we need to move on to other speakers.
Thank you, John. So I want to, if there are no other comments, and I don't want to deny Raul an opportunity to speak. I also have not really provided my own comments, although I do have some. I do want to hear from the 2 petitioners, one on Article 8 and one on Article 9. So maybe we talk about warrant Article 8 first. So you have up to 7 minutes. You're currently muted, Susan.
Okay, thank you. Before I start my presentation, well, first of all, my name is Susan Park. I'm a town meeting member from Precinct 2. And I do not disagree with what some of you have just said. There is actually data from the respected RAND Corporation that has looked at what happens when there's more dispensaries in town. And when there's more dispensaries in town, it sends the message and it gives children a positive view that marijuana is okay. And that was in 2019. And RAND is a very respectable study. Secondly, in 2019, JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, they came out with data saying the increase of calls to the emergency rooms were like 140%. So, I mean, it's like there is data out there. It's very clear that with more stores, there's more access. The dean I spoke to at BHS basically said that the vaping products, they're high-end products, and the kids are getting them at dispensaries. How he knew that? He's the dean of the school. Okay, this is what he told me. And so, it's sure, cannabis and alcohol has been around for a long time. But as leaders of the town, as select board, as a town meeting member, parents, it's like we are all, as Clinton said, it takes a village. We are all eyes and ears. We should be looking out for each other. And when a slew of parents come here tonight, and they've come here weeks ago, and then before that, months ago, and you dismiss the parents and just say, it's not true, it doesn't go very well. Okay, I take offense that all these parents have come, and you basically just say, well, that's not really true. Okay, every one of those speakers who showed up tonight, they know the data, they read. And when they come and parents have called in saying that there's 80% of students, 8th graders who are vaping, it's not only a school committee problem, it's a town problem. And it's the message that we are sending our children when you accept more businesses. It's the message that you're sending, okay? And as a town, we work together. Select board, school committee, town meeting, we're all each other's eyes and ears. So please don't say that it's not true. This is warrant Article 8 to see if the town will amend Article 8.3.7. The language is here, and I'm sure you will all see it in the combined reports. And I won't read it because we can all read. In the event that 20% of the number of off-premises liquor licenses is a fraction, the fraction shall be rounded down. In the pre-existing bylaws right now, the language says round up. My warrant article asks to amend the round up to round down. And this is from section 8.37.4 as amended. Warrant Article 8 will not affect past licenses. They will not be affected. This section is in Warrant Article 8. It shall not affect the validity of licenses outstanding as of its effective date under state law, including Massachusetts general law. Basically, if Warrant Article 8 passes at town meeting, this may go on to the polls in May. So basically, what does it really mean? And Warrant Article 8 is technical. It's technical in the sense that it's basically asking to look at the numbers and how are the cannabis store numbers calculated. It's 20% of off-premise liquor licenses. So in other words, right now we have 19 liquor licenses off-premise. And when you do the 20% math, it comes out to 3.8. If you round up, it goes up to 4. When you round down, it goes to 3. And you can see the other examples as well. Some may say that Warrant Article 8 will not have much impact, but when it comes to if one life is saved, or if one life is doesn't fall prey to addiction, that one life matters to me. Okay, it matters to me. And so basically, if you do the math, rounding up can the difference could be as high as 8 and it could be as low as 4. And I guess it depends on, of course, the number of off-premise liquor licenses that are issued. And the town has 24 and 19 have been issued. And I know that variable can change, but in the far off future, if there's 28 off-premise licenses, the number can go from 5 or 6.
You have 30 seconds.
I've mentioned all the articles. Gray matter does decrease with use. There's tons of research out there. Why are we doing this? Because we care. And we love Brookline and we want the future to be the same as what some people talked about, why they came here. We want to keep it here. We don't want it to be the hub of where everyone comes and buys. This is the latest research or the latest thing. Netta and Justin Bieber are partnering, and the song that your kids have probably played on the radio, it's called Peaches. You get my peaches from Georgia. that song. Okay, that's my 12-year-old's favorite song. And so this guy
You've
has
reached seven
now,
minutes.
thank
Please
you.
conclude.
So anyway, I would hope you would vote yes on warrant article 8, yes on 9, and of course, no on 7. Thank you.
Thank you. So before I open it up to select board members, because we still need to hear from the petitioner on warrant article 9, I did see Jonathan Simpson on our call. Maybe Monique can also answer this question. Do we even have the discretion to round down? I thought that the state was very prescriptive in that 20%.
So it's my understanding that if we rounded down, including our existing or grandfathered licenses, that we would be under the 20% threshold per the state. So it would not be possible. I think Patty, she recommended to the petitioner to then just have the rounding down be for any licenses not grandfathered. In this case, that would be the 2 additional licenses.
Oh, I see. Okay, so this assumes that warrant article 7 passes.
That's
Jonathan?
correct. That's not correct.
Hold on.
Apologies. Yes, Patty and I met with Susan earlier this week, as well as several of the other co-petitioners. And Patty in particular had a number of different suggestions, but ultimately the petitioners elected to keep it as sort of bare bones as you see it. It means that when we come up with a fraction, when we do that 20% calculation, we come up with a fraction, we will round down in all circumstances. Now, your question is a good one, because there is one circumstance where that would not be permitted, and it is the circumstance we are currently in for marijuana establishments, because we do not believe, we believe rounding down would drop us below the 20% minimum that a town can, a yes community, which Brookline is, can have for marijuana establishments, unless it has a townwide referendum allowing it to go lower. So if warrant article 8, if it passes, and we were in any other circumstance than the one we are right now, if warrant article 7 passes as well and we issue 2 more licenses, we would round down, because we're nowhere near the 20% cap anymore. If you're looking at things that aren't marijuana establishments and you want to use the same calculation, which Brookline currently does, we would round down for those. But keeping in mind that they're not touching any licenses that are currently already issued. I believe Susan said in her presentation, the plan would be to seek that referendum in the coming year, maybe as early as next May, to allow us to round down in all circumstances, including the situation we're currently in before warrant article 7 passes, or doesn't, assuming warrant article 7 does not pass. So, but as of right now, the article for marijuana establishments would not be effective, because we are unable to round down.
Thank you very much. So I would like to hear from the petitioner on warrant article 9. So Alok, you have 7 minutes. Alok, you're muted.
How's that? Sorry. Thank you. Hi, my name is Alok Samani. I'm a resident in Precinct 5, and I am the co-petitioner for warrant article number 9. This warrant article seeks to create a study committee with membership that represents a diversity of views to carefully consider and articulate policy goals and to define actions designed to achieve those policy goals with respect to recreational marijuana licensing in Brookline. And it's really an attempt to have a conversation. It's not, I didn't write this because we were trying, I'm, as a petitioner, as a co-petitioner, trying to roll back marijuana access. That is not the point of this article at all. So why do we need this? We do already have 4 stores. So adult access in Brookline is guaranteed. So why do we need this? So in rushing to license those stores, I've heard this story a number of times. We have actually increased our tax revenue, which is a good thing for the town, but we've failed to achieve other stated goals. For example, participation by equity applicants. So the purpose of this article is to help us stop rushing, help us create a plan, and a plan that is crafted by taking into account all the different views that are in our community. This committee should include diverse voices, not just those that are pro additional licensing, but those that have expressed their concerns today as well. Parents, teenagers, it needs health professionals. And the committee should really consider emerging evidence and seek to balance our goal of tax revenue with our other goals. And these other goals could be, and we do this in Brookline, it could be maybe we think about this the way we think about tobacco. We ensure we protect those that are most vulnerable. We ensure that we think about reasonable restrictions that promote community health. That's what we've done for tobacco. Why should we not do the same thing for marijuana? We heard the notion, previous speakers, that this is not a new thing. And previous speakers are right, this is not a new thing. But what is new is recreational access. And the data is still emerging with respect to what the impact is on our community based on this new idea, which is recreational access. We don't know, for example, if recreational access has somehow increased availability of marijuana for those who are underaged. We don't know that. In our conversation with Dr. Jett, he said that they have not as yet been able to formulate a data analysis or even gather the data to establish a baseline. We need a baseline in order to understand how access to recreational marijuana is affecting our community. It may be a good effect, it may be a bad effect, but without baseline data, we can't even establish what the effect is. So that's one reason to kind of pause, slow down, consider the evidence, and have a full conversation. We heard from one select board member that these 2 additional licenses are about social equity. 2 new licenses, even if awarded to equity applicants, and it's not clear that will happen, won't provide benefit for some time. But if social equity is truly one of our goals, then why shouldn't we focus our efforts on the 4 existing licenses? They've just all started up. We haven't as yet received information or performance data based on the promises they made in the HCAs. Why don't we go through that cycle once or twice and understand how to manage the existing licenses before we add more? And we can deliver social equity by helping the existing licensees deliver on their social equity promises. Recreational marijuana is here to stay, without a doubt. This is not an attempt to roll that back, but we do have 4 stores. That ensures access. This warrant article is an attempt to have this town have a full conversation as more and different license types roll out, to have a conversation about how do we want to approach it, what should our plan be. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess this question I'm directing this question towards Miriam, who is the chair of the mitigation committee. And the petitioner can also provide his thoughts. I guess what would the difference between this proposed committee be and the already established mitigation committee?
So actually, we are literally right now, and Monique, you should chime in too, but we literally just had a meeting last week about taking a look at the current charge of the mitigation committee and making some changes and adaptations based on, you know, where it started and where we are now. And so I think it would be quite reasonable, actually. I mean, I don't want to talk for Monique, but I think it would be quite reasonable for us to bring some of these issues into the work of the committee. I think, you know, I think the idea of getting baseline, you know, the baseline data is very important. You really can't do anything without baseline data. So, you know, I would be more than happy to sit down. Am I saying your name correctly? Alok? With Alok and talk about what we could roll into the work of the existing committee. And it's very timely, actually.
So look, were you aware of this committee? Would you be open to that? Or do you want a standalone committee?
I am aware of the committee. I've spent some time on the Brookline website and trying to understand the role of that committee. As I understand it, the membership is taken from the areas of town where the shops exist. What this study committee is proposing is a different sort of membership. It's a membership that will be diverse across the town, not just from specific geographic parts of the town. And the scope of this would be a bit different as well, because the end result is to propose a warrant article which will amend our general bylaws. And as I understand it, the committee that the select board member chairs is there to provide recommendations on how to spend the funds that we're accumulating. It's not there to recommend changes to our bylaws and consider how and what our policy goals should be for licensing.
Okay, that's fair.
Well, I just a slight correction that some of what we do on the committee is in fact think about how these stores are affecting the communities that they're residing in and mitigate those effects. So yes, and we do both those things. So I don't think it would be completely out of the realm to roll this in, but I respect if you want to continue with the warrant article as is and not. But I think it would be, if this warrant article does not pass, I'd still be more than happy to have a conversation about how we could bring this under the charge of the existing committee.
That would be welcome. Thank you.
And you know, not to speak out of turn, but I think this board would be open to amending the committee and its membership. You know, if that would help merge these two ideas together.
Thank you.
So any thoughts? We've got about 10 minutes left. I don't want to shortchange if anybody has any thoughts, but we will continue to talk about these warrant articles probably at our next meeting. Bernard, you're muted.
I think Susan brought up this issue of Justin Bieber and Netta. I didn't know that. It sounds pretty alarming to me because Justin Bieber is someone who is specifically targeting teenagers. And I think that I thought that there were regulations, state regulations with respect to advertising to ensure that they aren't targeting teenagers. So I'd like someone, you know, maybe Monique to look into that, and maybe we should intervene and make sure that this, you know, this type of advertising, which seems to me directed specifically at teenagers, is stopped.
I'm happy to look into that. And our retailers are, you know, have currently done a really great job in terms of vetting any sort of advertisements through the CCC if there has been a complaint. And also, you know, obviously I'm available to the public if they have any general questions or concerns regarding advertisements. I'm in direct contact with the CCC and I have verified a few different cases, but yes, Bernard, I will definitely look into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard.
Any other comments on these warrant articles? Again, the public hearing is closed. We really appreciate the comments and everyone taking the time to attend our meeting. The select board will continue its deliberations before voting on recommendations that will ultimately go before town meeting in November at another meeting. Thank you both for submitting your warrant articles.
Thank you.
So the topic I want us to turn to before we run out of time is the geothermal for Driscoll. I understand that the petitioners and the advisory committee came into alignment and that we may want to revote so that we are all moving the same language. Mel, do you have anything to say? Otherwise, I'll just move the language.
No, Melissa actually had to go participate in the advisory committee meeting, so I'm not intimately familiar with it. If you are, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. My understanding is that the advisory committee voted some language. Let me just read from the vote or the yes. So I will be moving that we approve the same language that is contained in the final advisory committee report as seen in that report on page 2. All those in favor? Bernard?
Aye.
Raul?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Miriam?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Hopefully this will make it a little bit easier for us to get this over the finish line. I really appreciate everybody's attention and hard work to get everybody in consensus. So now that we've dispensed with that, should we try to tackle anything else? There were board and committee assignments. Let's do that. So I will move, Fred Perry, I think, is on the Brookline Village Parking Benefits District. So I'm moving reappointment for him. All those in favor? Bernard?
Aye.
Raul?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Miriam?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And then Emily Jacobson, who was recently interviewed for the Transportation Board, but also came back before us for the Brookline Village Parking Benefits District. She would be replacing Brian Kane, who we ultimately put on the Transportation Board for a term expiring in 2022. All those in favor? Bernard?
Aye.
Raul?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Miriam?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Do we want to vote on some of the warrant articles that we heard from last week?
1 second. You gotta.
I'm kind of running out of steam and kind of want to save some for the town meeting tonight. So should we just table the votes?
Were we all in favor of low carbon concrete? I thought that was staff was
Okay.
behind it. I don't know if there are any issues. Maybe knock that one out.
Sure. So I will move favorable action on low carbon concrete contained in warrant article 18. All those in favor? Bernard?
Aye.
Raul?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Miriam?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. What about the easements? Or the sidewalk obstruction?
We could take that.
Okay, sidewalk obstruction, let's do that, and then we'll do easement. Warrant Article 6, although favorable action on warrant Article 6. All those in favor? Bernard?
Aye.
Raul?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Miriam?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And then the Harbor, the 60 to 64 Harvard easement,
Yeah.
warrant Article 5. Yes, Bernard.
Can I say something? I just want to let people know that I have had conversations with the proponents of this warrant article, and they are tied, or they are working with the school building committee and our design team to make sure that there are no problems. And there should not be, but I just want to make sure that they're thinking about that.
Yes, yes. You know, that map really said it all, the location.
Right.
But I hope that it will just be a win-win for everyone.
Will be.
Okay, all those in favor? Bernard,
Aye.
Raul,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Miriam,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So I will move to adjourn, and we will see each other at town meeting tonight.
See you
Get
there.
something to eat.
Thanks. Bye-bye.